I'm resident of Colorado, Joel Saints for YouTube. This is my buddy Gordon Dymowski, my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to discuss Dark Shadows episode 780, chosen by Gordon. Now, what we're doing is we're going through the 1897 arc, random episode selection like we've been doing. So, Gordon, why'd you choose this episode, buddy?
Well, I know we've talked about this before, but I think there's a couple of really cool scenes that I like in this episode. The first is the one where Quentin discovers that Barnabas is a vampire, and I love that scene because in any other kind of storytelling, it would be somehow that either Barnabas would somehow threaten Quentin to not tell, or Quentin would threaten Barnabas as to, I know you're a vampire. There might be an antagonism. But what Quentin says is, hey, look, I know why you're helping me. I get it now. And there's like an interesting kind of uneasy trust between them that gets almost commented on later on when Carl's killed. And Quentin's like, wait, I know you had to do this, but really, dude, Carl? And the other is towards the end when Trask finds out from Carl that Barnabas is a vampire. And he's at the end. He not only holds a cross to him, but he says, hey, you're going to hang out with me until dawn. And at that point, you hear the cock crow.
Man.
And it is dawn.
Yeah, this is a really, really, really interesting episode. It's narrated by David Selby. It's written by Sam Hall. It's directed by Henry Kaplan. Patrick, what did you think of this episode?
It's a very, very important episode in terms of the relationship. It's really, I think, the first solidly good moment of accord between equals that the series maybe has ever had. Really, when you think about it, there's always some other weird power dynamic, but Barnabas, they're allies because they respect each other. And Barnabas has something Quentin wants, and Quentin has something Barnabas wants. And you get the feeling, and this is like an origin story, movie or something. This is where it really, really, really comes together. And I think that's tremendous, that moment of, stop, wait, I know why you're doing this now. You're going to be afraid. No, I'm always afraid. This is a great, great line.
Mm-hmm.
And then literally, Quentin trades one brother for another.
Yeah.
And it is an episode that's very funny because, all of the stuff with hiding Carl's body. I mean, Quentin trying to keep Trask out of the drawing room. Wow. I mean, all of that stuff would have been great. If you had a laugh track with it.
Mm.
I mean, it's all farce, down to the arm flopping out. How did they have him suspended in there? Was Barnabas just kind of holding him and decide to go, oh, I'm going to get this over with? It's hard to tell.
I tell you what, the Carl Collins, who starts off really funny, and he's lost Pansy, and Pansy told him in a dream who the vampire was. He goes to investigate, and in the previous episode, he told Quentin who it was. And at first, Quentin laughs. Then he realizes our cousin who we never see during the day. Now, in this episode, like Gordon's talking about, in the previous episode, he locked Carl in the mausoleum in the secret room with Barnabas. And Carl didn't know how to get out of the secret room at first. And in this episode, he figures it out. Quentin is just sitting in the drawing room, chilling, listening to music. I think I think what's most shocking to Quentin isn't so much it is Carl's death, because he would have been okay if Barnabas would have killed Carl in the secret room, but it's killing Carl at Collinwood, I think, is what really shocks Quentin the most. It's like
things just aren't done.
Right. It's like we couldn't simplify things. Oh no. Things went south really quick. Carl figured it out. He said it's like one of those Chinese puzzle boxes. He opened it up and he got the door to come up. He just bolts out of John Carlin is just a hoot in this episode. He reminds me of Roger Rabbit.
Would you say that Carl was a person of great passions?
Yeah.
Jewel? So did they run hot sometimes?
I really, yeah, I think he's somebody who, when I think of Carl, I think of a lot of the characters I've seen that were just fun. Like, reminds me of Roger Rabbit.
You could call him Hot Carl.
Yeah, you could.
And he just drops in.
Yeah, he's definitely Desmond's kid.
Yes. For sure.
Yeah, he's just one dismembered head in a box away from being Desmond Jr.
Desmond Jr. Gosh, the Hot Carl.
Well, you know, if Carl had a son and named him Carl Jr., he could start a hamburger chain on the West Coast.
Very good. But would you say Hot Carl's an in-your-face performance, Jewel?
Sure, why not?
Exactly, why not?
Yeah, but if you have ever hit a Hot Carl in the face, it can be messy.
And he is.
But I love the scene with Trask in the mausoleum where he's like, but the coffin was here.
Yeah.
And at no point does Trask say, like, well, there's a secret room, so there must be something here. Trask is like, no, dude, no. You know what I mean? He just couldn't believe that, like, you know, instead of thinking, hey, there's a secret room here, why is that? He's like, oh yeah, it's a secret room, but obviously there's no coffin here.
Yeah, before, the reason he saw the room is because he knew that's where Kathleen Lee Scott's character was hiding prior. So he knows about the secret room, and so to him, it's like he knew there wasn't a coffin there before. So that's why he's very doubtful of Carl. He does go with Carl to look, but once he realizes where they are, he's like, there wasn't a coffin here before. And
you could do a whole sitcom about, you know, have Trask and Carl like go back to the secret room and talk about, hey, there's no coffin here. Yeah. Maybe throwing a random object, like throw in Judah Zachary's head, and they're like, But what's a head doing here? I don't know. We must go to speak to the divine. But there's a head here. There's somebody's head in a box in here. I would pay to see that Dark Shadow spinoff.
Yeah, one thing that this is, you know, getting geeky even for us, but I really started to give some thought as to how that mechanism works that opens the door and closes the door. This very heavy door. Yeah. Just automatically. I think it's got to be something hydraulic.
Yeah.
I think somehow water, there's like a wheel somewhere, and water from a nearby creek or something gets pumped in, and it activates some sort of counterweight system. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, you forget that the Barnabas of 1985 had traveled back to 1847. No, to 1647 to build that specifically, so that would be in place.
Exactly.
I'm sort of one, because sometimes old cemeteries will have wells. I sort of wonder if that was the case with Eagle Hill.
Where there's a well, there's a way.
Yeah.
Did Conrad Bain dig the wells?
I don't know, but like when
no, I think Conrad Bain and David Goda dug the well.
Imagine if Conrad Bain and Conrad Janis had joined forces.
Oh, that would be the world would tremble.
It really would.
Patrick, what's your favorite scene in this episode, man?
Imagine if Conrad Bain and Conrad Jen. Oh, well, I mean, it's the scene in the mausoleum where, Barnabas and Quentin come to some accord.
Yeah.
That's one of the most important pieces of dialogue in the entire show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's
And every time I watch it, it puts me in mind. I always compare it to, and I don't know the exact episode number, but it's the exchange between Barnabas and Burke Devlin in The Blue Whale, where they're talking about being a swordsman, and I think of that. You can see that that's the way it's written. I think the actors are having trouble bringing that tension to life because that could have been so much better. Here, that tension is perfect because it's economical, and the actors bring a lot of give the lines weight.
Well, I'm sorry.
And I was about to say the one with Barnabas and Burke Devlin, it's not a knock on them, but for me, the way it's written, it just feels like what should be like an understanding or an acknowledgement of we ain't friends, but we ain't enemies. It feels a little weaker, but that's just my perspective.
For me, that scene, the cards and cutlasses scene, both works and doesn't because no pun intended, Burke holds all the cards. And I think Burke knows it. Burke is dealing with a weirdo, but as far as he knows, a vaguely ineffectual and overly dramatic weirdo. And Burke doesn't know what's at stake. And Burke doesn't have much skin in the game. He doesn't, Burke does not have the investment in a solution here that Quentin has or that Barnabas has. So, I mean, he even says, but my version is just a game.
Yeah.
And so I think Burke sort of walks away saying, Vicky, I had a weird conversation with Barnabas, but who knows?
I think there is an interesting parallel between the comparison, though, because
sure,
with Burke, remember Barnabas does contemplate killing Burke, but it's Willie who tells him, "Hey, you can't just kill Burke, get rid of Burke Devlin the way you did Jason McGuire. There's nobody looking for Jason McGuire. Nobody cared that he, whether he went or not. He didn't have a foreign address. He didn't even have an address. He just moved from town to town. That's not Burke Devlin. He's from here. He's known here. He has his own money, his own business. People will miss him if he goes." And that's when Barnabas says, "I don't need to kill Burke Devlin to get rid of him." He goes, he uses Victoria Winters, which is really smart. This shows you how much of a chess player Barnabas can really be. But with the difference with 1897, number one, Barnabas doesn't have a Willie Loomis to talk him out of it. Two, there's just no time. He's literally out. Like, he can't. If he bites Carl here, and I think the reason he does it, he's afraid of another Dirk Wilkins almost, and he doesn't want that mess again.
I can
the other thing,
what a vampire Carl would have made.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that with Burke Devlin, Barnabas had only been out of the coffin for a while. Here he's been around the block a bit, so he knows, like, he's learned a little bit, like he knows who to bite and who not to bite. And I think with Quentin, he knows that, like, okay, he's surprised at Quentin's acceptance because I think, Quentin's on his upward moral arc since his kids die. So I think it's easier, and he's meeting Barnabas, who's pretty much, I got to fix this because the kid, because the ghosts and David and Amy are important. And what could have been a conflict, Barnabas is coming at it like this, and Quentin is kind of like, okay, stop.
Yeah.
I get it, and that, I think, turns the whole dynamic around where instead of being, it's like Quentin, to use the cards and cutlasses analogy, Quentin's like, look, let me put down this deck of cards. I don't have a cutlass. We don't need to fight.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. My favorite scene in this episode is just David Selby chilling, listening to his music, and then Trask walks. It's so good.
You know, after watching this episode, I wanted to ask both of you a question because I don't know, I don't remember if it ever happened. Was there never an episode in 1897 where Quentin just punches Gregory Trask in the face?
No.
Because I kind of wish there was. Just
Oh, yeah.
'cause looking at that little banter, it's like I kind of wish it was just like, yeah, Trask, shut up, pow.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
That would have been.
Occam's razor.
They have David Selby's character tussle with some characters, but that would have been fun.
He's like Sonny Corleone. He's fighting all the time. But not Gregory Trask.
No.
Yeah, it'd be a moment similar to Batman punching Guy Gardner in the old Justice League comics of the 1980s.
Absolutely.
Nice. Is there anything you guys want to add about this episode before we?
More Helen Slater.
Gordon.
Don't sleep on this one. You know,
No.
it's you know, don't it's you know, you may think, okay, yeah, it's kind of in, but I think this really, I think it defines the Quentin Barnabas relationship in a way that you don't really, that impacts further on. So this is definitely one to watch.
Yeah, Dark Shadows accumulates story. It doesn't really tell it.
Mm-hmm.
And in this episode, it tells it. We get an actual moment of sharply defined action. If you look at the friendship between Julia and Barnabas, that accrues over time. It's very slowly turns from one thing to another. Here, things really do take a sharp left turn.
Yeah. I think that too, like Gordon has been talking about, it's Barnabas's experience though too with different people and being he comes from 1795, but he has lived in the present day of 1967, 1968, and it's really interesting to see like what they do here is really cool. You finally have this understand. This is the episode where Quentin he understands now. He gets it. And that was important. And this is an important episode, no question.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It is Patrick's turn to pick. What's your one for tomorrow, sir?
Well, I know you said that 698 is where it all starts. That's where that one online database says. I personally put the beginning of 1897 at 701.
Ooh.
So I'm curious about 801.
Oh.
To just see, I'm a big fan for going for things of numeric significance, and let's see what this is like 100 episodes in.
Okay. Is tomorrow at 10 good for you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Links to Gordon Dymowski's Amazon page is going to be in the description box. Links to the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound is going to be in the description box. Go pick it up if you guys haven't already. I'll see you gentlemen tomorrow night.